I'm Chris, and I'm the Learning and Participation Manager from the Craft Council. I've been at a 3-day Museum Mix hackathon at Derby Museum, so my voice is waning, but please bear with me. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Craft Council and something that's been going on today exactly at the same time we've all been sat here engaging here at Engage. So while we've been busy here, the Craft Council has been busy at the House of Commons. Today we launched our manifesto for making an education. It started this morning with a letter in the Times, which was backed by over 100 signatories, including MPs, academics, public figures and makers. Everyone from Kirsty Allsup to Grace Perry have supported us. And this afternoon we launched our manifesto at the House of Commons. We've also launched today an update of our research document, Studying Craft. Studying Craft 2 comes out today, and it highlights a sort of dilemma that we have here in the UK when thinking about craft and the future of craft. I won't talk through every point, but I'll just highlight a few things. Studying Craft 2 points out that the social and economic value of craft, based on statistics we've been looking at over the past 7 years, it reiterates that the UK is a world leader in craft, and it supposes that craft generates £3.4 billion for the UK economy. But it also highlights that things are changing in how children interact with and learn to make. Participation in craft-related GCSEs is falling, and the number of craft represented in higher education is also falling as well. And our manifesto is an answer to that call. The designs for our manifesto poster have been done by Anthony Burrow, and we've also, he's done some limited edition prints for us to help us raise awareness and funds, but also he's been making prints of this live in the House of Commons this afternoon at our launch. And I'll just show you a little bit about the manifesto and some information from the launch today as a sort of news update for what you've missed from the House of Commons. I won't go through all these 5 calls for change. What we're calling for are 5 areas of improvement which will join up making meaningful to everyone to secure the future of craft. And it's going from early exposure to making, sort of the making in school, the lightest touch making, and joining that up to a future where we see world-class education and research in craft. And it's not just about the high-end, fine craft makers. It's not just about the luxury and the sort of inaccessible. It's about the basics of craft, the grassroots of craft. Doctors need to know how to sew, to do stitches. Future engineers need to learn how to make and think and turn that into real objects. And our essential calls for change tie those together and relate to the report I talked about earlier in Studying Craft 2. Today we've been busy at the launch, not me because I've been here, but the rest of our team have been busy at the launch. And just a few things to show off. This is the print of our manifesto, and there's actually a print and the 5 calls of change in each of the conference bags for you to have a look at. And some of the news items that have been out today in the Times, the Observer, and some other publications. This is Kirsty Allsup's view of the queue to get into the House of Commons this afternoon. We had Tristram Hunt sponsoring this, and he spoke today about the value of craft. And here are some shots of the printing in progress. There's been a whirlwind of activity on Twitter, so if you follow the hashtag #FutureInMaking, you can find out more about what we've been doing, but more importantly, how we want to be involved and support everyone from people responsible for education in museums, galleries, schools, to decision makers in helping us secure this future of craft in the UK. In terms of what's next, I encourage you all to find out more about the manifesto and decide if you want to support it. Read and share Studying Craft 2. That's the bulk of the research and the motivation behind what we're doing and the statement we're making. And then read and share the manifesto as well. That's the more digestible, accessible call to action to get making on the forefront of what we're doing. You can support the manifesto individually or as organizations. You can sign on and show your support, and you'll also be able to act on the manifesto we're looking at ways to badge activity under the manifesto, and in all the new activity we're planning for, we're looking to embody this and reach out to arts organizations, museums, all the stakeholders in the picture here. And just follow us and get in touch. craftscouncil.org.uk for information. You can follow Crafts Council on Twitter, and my information's there. I'm around this evening, I'm around tomorrow, so if you want to have a conversation about what the future of making looks like to you, I'm here and we can start that conversation. That's it.
So as a member of the Norwich Museums Youth Forum, I've worked on many projects to make Norwich museums more appealing to young people, and have witnessed firsthand some of the challenges associated with planning, organising and implementing events for young people. Much of the work done in Norwich museums is focused towards drawing in young people who feel that museums have nothing to offer them. Norwich Castle, for example, offers a very successful series of events celebrating youth culture as it links to the collections, including fashion events related to the costume and textiles collections, and street art battles linked to Norfolk heritage and the castle's normal graffiti. However, Youth Forum members are living proof that there are young people who already think museums are cool and find heritage exciting and fascinating. One of the challenges the Youth Forum face is making these young people aware of what the museums have to offer. I first joined the Norwich Museums Youth Forum because I enjoyed history, art and visiting historic sites. Yet I'd visited none of the 3 Norwich museums outside of some barely remembered primary school visits. My goal as a member of the Youth Forum has always been to address this issue. Young people who are interested in history and art are very likely to become regular visitors who attend events and engage with the collections once they're given an opportunity to get involved. For example, as a member of the Youth Forum, I began to develop the skills and interests that inspired me to study for a Master's in Cultural Heritage and Museum Studies. For some young people, such as myself, Youth Forum provides them with the push to explore their local museum and become part of an engaged community based around the museum. My Gaming at the Castle project was an attempt to provide another opportunity for young people with similar interests to develop an understanding of the museum and what it has to offer. To take advantage of the history of Norwich Castle and its collections, I decided to organise a tabletop role-playing game to attract young people who would be interested in this history due to its relationship to the fantasy settings and that these kind of games are often based in. Tabletop role-playing is a type of gaming that originated with Dungeons and Dragons in the 1970s. These games allow players to take on the role of an adventurer within a fantasy quest and direct their characters' actions as they progress through a story. This kind of game can be seen as a collaborative storytelling process, as players work with the game master, who directs the challenges that the players encounter. As the name suggests, Dungeons and Dragons often involves the exploration of a dungeon, full of traps, monsters and treasures, and the atmosphere of Norwich Castle's medieval dungeons seemed the perfect setting for this kind of game. In practice, a tabletop role-playing game involves participants sitting around a table, recording information about their characters on character sheets or scrap paper, and rolling dice to add an element of chance to their actions. These games can use rules and table dressing of varying complexity. Some games involve a broadening number of strange-shaped dice, carefully constructed maps or even terrain models, and figurines to represent the players and other characters, while others use only conversation and the occasional dice roll to measure the success of an action. Either way, tabletop role-playing offers an alternative to the expensive, high-tech forms of entertainment that might spring to mind when you think of gaming, an important consideration for museums looking to organise events for this kind of audience. In the case of the event at Norwich Castle, we focused on Norwich's existing game community and giving them the autonomy to organise events that they would enjoy, with the castle just offering the unique atmosphere. I believe that this was a significant factor in our success, as the community was given the opportunity to come up with their own games without having it dictated to them how they were going to use that. From the beginning, I emphasised the importance of not relying on historical accuracy, and in fact both games were used in a modern setting, but drawing on the collections and information about them. And all the participants expressed an interest in learning more about the museum's collections, and from the feedback we took, we found that a third of our participants had never visited the museum before, but more than half, including all of those who said they'd never visited before, indicated that they now intended to return within the next month.
We've got 1 minute.
So our pilot event demonstrated that there was an audience for tabletop role-playing games organised at the castle, and the feedback was generally very positive. Anna also observed that the kind of techniques used in gaming was also very similar to the kind of learning techniques that are used in our more formal programmes. So we intend to take this forward, for example, for our upcoming Jeff Koons exhibition, and organise future gaming events which we hope will be successful in attracting young people and in earning money for the museum.
Brilliant. We're quite unusual in that we're kind of half a university and half a gallery. So the university is a very small university. We have about 50 undergraduates a year, and we focus specifically on the history of art. So very, very focused indeed. And the Courtauld Gallery is kind of the opposite. We go from Renaissance all the way to 20th century. So my job is to kind of bring those two elements together and work, kind of come up with education programs around that. I won't go through all of this, but that's the kind of wide range of programs that we offer. The Young People's Programme, because we're kind of dealing with widening participation for university and higher education, and informal learning in the gallery, we cross many different barriers indeed. I'm going to talk to you about a specific project that we piloted last year and we've been running this year. We're in the middle of it, so I have no outcomes for you, no evidence, so you just have to kind of go with me on this one. So the project is a Pinterest project. We've been talking a lot about innovation, how we can kind of start change in our organisations. I've been in my post for just over a year, so I've been looking at baby steps. So how we can just start to implement small changes within our organisation to get the ball rolling on innovation. We didn't really have any kind of digital engagement, social media on the Young People's Programme, so I've been implementing that. We also, I wanted to find a kind of low-cost, easy way to start digital engagement, so I thought I would use something that already exists, which is really helpful. So no app making, I'm afraid, just really simple use of social media structures that are out there. So we came up with an idea that basically you create a Pinterest board around an object from our collection. So that might be a painting, a sculpture, a piece of archives. It's really wide-ranging. You can see here, this has started from a Wyndham Lewis portrait of his wife, Froanna, in 1937. I'm a British modernist, so I love this stuff. But the student picked this, and they ended up with contemporary graphic design. So the idea is that they create a board that's really creative, it draws in all their interests, and I'm going to talk to you very quickly about the aims of this. Specifically, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just wanted to pick up on this idea of learning how to use online researching. So we try and focus on introducing art history and kind of critical thinking into our programme. And one of the major ways of researching about artworks now is online. So we wanted to find a way that we could teach this effectively through Pinterest. An art historian you might not be aware of is a 20th century art historian, A.B. Warburg. The Warburg Institute is in London, and his boards look a bit like this. He used to create, mid-20th century art historian, used to create pin boards around artworks. This is one of our collection, and luckily I found a pin board there on your left. Yeah. Searching online should be simple. You go to Google Images, you write in an image, and you find all this. We're looking for Gauguin's The Dream. We come up with loads of different images which include adverts to honeymoons, which we don't really want. So I'm trying to encourage people to use the correct online resources, so use gallery websites, don't go straight to Google Images, and to pin images directly from gallery websites. So that's not just our online archive, it's all of your online archives as well. You've been working really hard digitalising your collections, getting them online. We're trying to get young people to use them. That's kind of the main focus of this programme. So just to end, because I have 40 seconds, these are some of the examples of the Pinterest boards that have been created. You can see that they're really wide-ranging, they work across our whole collection. The young people are able to kind of really follow their specific interests. We've got one here all about women in art, so they have a theme to them, and I've got 20 seconds, so I'm going to end on just a few really nice images of some contemporary artists that use this idea of putting images together, because I'm kind of interested in where art history meets the visual arts practice. So I think I'm going to leave it on that note. Finish my rambling.
I work in the creative learning team at the Museum of Contemporary Art Australia. This is us. We're located in Sydney Harbour. We look out over the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge. We are the only museum in Australia that's dedicated to collecting and interpreting and exhibiting the work of contemporary living Australian artists, but we also show international artists as part of our changing exhibition program. In 2012, the MCA Australia underwent a major redevelopment which saw the establishment of the Learning Centre at the heart of the museum, and this enabled us to sort of reimagine and experiment with what programming could look like for all of our audiences. So one of the key programs that we reinvented through the establishment of the Learning Centre has been our Bella program for children and young people with specific needs. Led by specially trained artist educators, the Bella program supports children and young people with specific needs, including physical, intellectual, behavioural or sensory disability, to engage with contemporary art through playful gallery explorations of the MCA collection. And then explore making through process-based studio sessions which explore ideas, materials or techniques encountered in the galleries. So one of the key initiatives that was enabled through the creation of the Learning Centre was the establishment of our Bella Room Commission. So each year we hand over a space in the heart of our Learning Centre to a different artist to create an interactive tactile installation which provides opportunity for children and young people with specific needs to engage with contemporary art through sensory experience. So the first commission in 2012 was created by artist Emily Floyd, who drew on influences of Stein philosophy to create this beautiful sculptural installation. So it's crafted from natural materials including wood and wool. The work, Here Small Gestures Make Complex Meanings, invited audiences to take objects and rearrange them and tell their own stories and create imaginary worlds. The work was developed with particular consideration of the needs of children with vision impairment, and it contained braille elements and also had a strong scent that was created through the use of essential oils and beeswax, which was used to finish off the wood carvings. So in 2013, artist Hiromi Tango completely transformed the space into a multi-sensory soft sculptural forest, which invited children to look, touch, listen and explore. Dance provided endless opportunities for play and discovery with lots of hidden treasures inside, including bells, rattles, origami creations and Japanese masks. The work also featured interactive iPods with a specially designed Ripple app which would respond to touch, creating patterns and sounds. So this work was created through workshops with the artist and Bella audiences, and audiences were invited to contribute to the growing installation over the course of the year. So from Hiromi's installation, we discovered the importance of having components of the room that could come outside into the studio space for people who found the experience of being in the space overwhelming. And we also discovered opportunities that the room could provide for different audiences. So we watched the delight and wonder with which young children responded to this work, and that led us to establish our art play program for 0 to 3s, which is a drop-in program. Okay, so our current commission, just quickly, has completely transformed the Bella Room in the form of a video installation by performance art collective Brown Council. So students are invited to take a stage here and participate in small performance art challenges such as making your face as small as you can, or making your face as large as you can, and so on. So we were a little bit nervous about how audiences would respond to a less tactile space, But our nervousness was quickly dispelled when we saw that children responded very much to the absurdity and the sense of humour in the work, and they very much enjoy participating in the performance art challenges, but also creating performance art actions of their own, and creating DIY costumes that respond to the artist's own costuming. So I might leave it with that. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to read from this. I apologise. Hopefully we'll keep to time that way. So I'm working on a project called Traveller's Tales at Royal Museums Greenwich, which focuses on the history of exploration from the Enlightenment era to today and how this is interpreted in museums and galleries. So the project was inspired by the acquisition of 2 paintings by George Stubbs from 1872, created after Captain Cook's first voyage and first encounter with these animals. So these are the key aims of the project, which sits under a wider aim to test different approaches to participation in the museum, one of which is to investigate how to connect the collections of the museum and 4 partner museums whilst the kangaroo painting is on tour, to enable visitors to engage with the wider stories around exploration. On this part of the project, we're also working with the Centre for Advanced Spatial Analysis at UCL as part of their wider research project, SEED, Creating and Exploring Digital Empathy. And SEED are investigating the concept of digital empathy, which we're then experimenting with in the museum context and developing this with an organisation called SODA. So, what is digital empathy? SEED defines it as the transmission and communication of empathetic feelings via digital media. So here's a bit of an example of one of their experiments so far. Hopefully it'll work. So here we go. So just to give you a quick idea of what that is, it's quite abstract. So that particular part of the project is actually working with the church in Hackney to think of different ways of engaging with the church community in terms of being able to share some of the things they're going through, and that was via a font. So for the museum, the project is firstly about providing a different way into the paintings that I showed earlier, and their stories, as well as the wider collections of the partners and museums during the project. And secondly, through the resulting digital interpretation tool, we will be studying visitors' empathetic responses to the collection objects with a view to using these findings to inform our future displays and interpretations, including the new exploration galleries we're hoping to open in 2018. So, for example, one strand is researching how to track visitors' reading of objects via digital media, possibly by eye flicker sensors or wider body motion sensors, looking at which parts of the objects and paintings are dwelled on longest and in what way, to contribute to our understanding of what audiences are most interested in and intrigued by. And in terms of the visitor's experience, we're aiming to investigate how we can create a sense of empathy for the experience of awe, wonder and trepidation those involved in exploration in the Enlightenment era and today would have felt on encountering the unfamiliar. So the research project will also draw on and feed into the activities and interpretation of the museum's dedicated participatory space, Rethink, when it focuses on the theme of exploration, as well as some fantastic research the project's Explorer volunteers have been conducting in the Art and Science of Exploration expedition, featuring the paintings currently on display in the Queen's House in Greenwich. So it's quite an ambitious project. There is no set outcome other than having to have something to go on tour with the paintings to start collecting this data and this information, which we're hoping will be built in a way that can be adapted for each of our project partners. So I'm going to end there. Watch this space. I'm a format and went slightly out of line. So yeah, ask me any questions later on. I'm here for the whole conference. This project considered Orkney's unique natural environment through the eyes of a new generation of young people, as well as those of established artists. Its focus through personal response and historical research was to better understand how change and development within the local community had been recorded and appreciated. The principal motivation arose from the strength of feeling and emotion expressed in local debates concerned with the visual impact of renewable devices and the construction of a major new pier to service the industry, and the conflicts of interest to emerge in the economic and cultural debate. Shifting a perspective inwards, as the view from the new pier encourages, is a complement to looking out. Moving to a new viewing point or platform changes the view, allowing new possibilities to emerge, be recorded and reflected upon. It's a reminder, like the heritage of landscape itself, our views are a collage of many moments observed, remembered and imagined. Developments at Copeland's Dock could provide the Stromness community with such a moment of inward reflection, a subtle shift from the town's view out. Landscape historian Amy Todman asks us to consider, looking from the Pier Art Centre, from as close to Barnes Graham's view as I can imagine, my view is coloured by the early days of landscape in Britain. For the first half of the 17th century, before landscape paintings became a fixed artistic genre, images of place, often called views or prospects, comfortably combined aspects of the aesthetic and operational values of the land. Prospect, for example, could encompass possible, hoped-for futures, as well as traces of the past. Seen from this perspective, a view through a window can be both a memorial to what was and the possibility of what could still be. What it is not is a snapshot of the present. In these photographs, Kristen is looking at the view and an installation that she created, and to be emphasised, where the view can be emphasised by the structure, as the structure forms part of the overall landscape itself. In these drawings, Amy Firth is looking at the different layers of history that mark her landscape. The area remains a place of beauty, and she's interested in how the defunct structures, like those at the cliffs, become an accepted part of the landscape, a notion that she questions as our surroundings see the introduction of more and more imposing constructions. Sandy, through his meanderings along the Stromness shoreline during that summer, and prompted by all the construction taking place around the town, realised that there was a constant flow of subtle change happening beneath the water level, traces left as obvious and as visible as any change taking place above the tide line. Alistair Peebles has long been interested in the stretch of shoreline, among other reasons because of a shifting sense of possibility seems to be part of its very nature as a place. He originally got to know it as a secret spot, rocky and remote, littered with surprises, and these prints are from an ongoing series in response to that small corner of the world, somewhere both enclosed and wide open. Amy Todman again. Standing on the new pier and looking in towards land as well as out to sea is a moment for physical retrospection, opening up new perspectives on the place. It's a changing viewpoint from which we might witness the past as well as future changes, a perspective that might be extended beyond the more transient visiting community and toward the local population. Nick Gordon has made this work from natural and man-made materials and is based on his observations of seagulls in flight around the Stromness Pier.
and his response to the complexities of the changing environment in Orkney. Amy Todman continues, I've always liked Glenkeys, one of the few easily acceptable elevated platforms in the Westmoreland. It gives you that view of the town, a good prospect. It reminds me of the follies of large estates situated on high vantage points and looking down onto the big house, as well as the gardens and wider estates and property. Yet, for strongness, it's not a landowner's vantage point from the top of the Brae, but more of a community viewing platform with ancient rights to the view. And you can see the full, at your own pace, with all the text on our website.
Hi, I am Liz from Orleans House Gallery, which is a gallery in West London, and here to present a project called Partnership for Excellence, which is an ArtSword project. It's a bit of a cop-out, a 3-minute film, so I'm just going to let the film do the talking, and then hopefully in my last minute I can talk to you about what happened next. So I will. That's just basically demonstrates kind of pooling together on a local need, sharing resources, and what it can do. And for us, it really kind of, we were allowed to, we kind of could experiment with different models, different audiences, and different kind of ways of making art. So as I mentioned in the last bit, we've now gone on to do a volunteering project, so totally different focus, but same partnership model. We're sharing resources as in kind of recruitment and sharing policies, but we're like all doing different models in the different museums. So it's really a real kind of achievement. I feel that we've kind of taken this partnership and built on it. And I suppose on an organisational level as well, we have Orleans House Gallery did a certain model of Arts Award, but we then have kind of built our confidence to trial other methods of doing Arts Award. So we've just completed, in the summer we did a week-long Arts Award, and we've worked with our local pupil referral unit to do Arts Award with pupils that are not in mainstream education. And just to finish, I've just had a text about 2 hours ago, and we've just passed another 22 people in Arts Award, and 6 of those are not in mainstream education. So do it. Everyone do Arts Award. Thank you.
I'd just like to talk a little bit about Look 200, which is a project that I've been working on for the last year. It's been based at Manchester Royal Eye Hospital. I am a freelance creative practitioner and artist, and I'd like to talk a little bit about this project and how it's really helped with my professional development to have gallery and museum backing. So I'll talk a little bit about what each of these organisations have done to help with Look 200. Arts Council England funded the project. The University of Manchester, I've worked with Professor Rob Lucas, who's a neurobiologist, and I'll talk a little bit more about his work. Manchester Science Festival have been very helpful in the sort of press side of the project, and I've done some work in engagement with the project with them. And Lime Arts are based at the hospital that I've been working at, so they've been really great with the practical side of working with the NHS. But I'd like to go further into talking about how the Manchester Museum have helped. So I'll just give you a little bit of background information about myself. I work a lot with the Whitworth Art Gallery and the Manchester Museum, and I have done for 8 years or so. So lots of different projects, lots of different groups of people. For the Look 200, I was working at the Manchester Royal Eye Hospital. It's the bicentenary year this year, so the project's been based around that. You can see from the main picture here that it's a large space, lots of light, so great for me as a painter. I've been working in the atrium of the eye hospital. It's a waiting room for 8 clinics, and that's my studio. That's where I've been working for the last year, creating work with people around me, patients waiting for their appointments. So it's a really nice way of engaging with the public, not only about art but also about science, because the project itself has been about some of the innovations into research into vision that have gone on in Manchester over the life of the hospital. I started off the project doing painting. This is Joanna Vasconcelos. She had a piece of work in an exhibition in the Manchester Art Gallery at the time that the project was starting. And the work is looking at John Dalton's contribution to colour blindness. He was the first person to identify it as a disorder. And so you'll be able to see there's a stripe of colour that's different on this painting, and that's showing you how somebody with a red-green colour blindness would see all these colours. This is Professor Rob Lucas. He's a neurobiologist, and this is some of his work trying to show a lot of something about the fact that he's discovered a new cell that's in the eye. So I won't go into that. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about how Manchester Museum has supported me. Given me a lot of experience over the years, advice on funding applications for this, introduction to other partners, including people within the NHS. I've been given an opportunity to curate a sister exhibit at the museum that's gone alongside with the launch of Book 200. They hosted the launch evening. So it started off at the Eye Hospital and then moved to the museum. Professional development, of course. And in return, I've been an outpost at the Eye Hospital. Strengthened links with the NHS Trust, activities for Culture Shocks Week, which is when the cultural institutions of Manchester go into the hospitals. I've helped brought funding in for the exhibit and display, hosted an artist day at the museum, and co-funded the launch evening. And also, I've been taking my professional development back into. So this is the launch event. It's reasonably well attended, I think. And this is working with the museum to put together an exhibit which is looking at vision and the research into vision in Manchester. So here's some pieces, and then the exhibit has been manipulated to show how somebody with colour blindness would see. So I encourage you all as gallery educators to support your freelance artists, as I do. Thank you.
But does anybody here know Access Art? A few? That's great. Well, look, all I really want to say is, in your delegate pack there is our card with this very, very cute picture of a lovely girl looking through a tunnel of card that she's made. Very inspiring. Anyway, and yeah, contact. That's not what I was saying. Shut up. Start again. Okay. 3 minutes. I can do this. So we've been going for 15 years. This is not the best view of the website. I'm not. Oh my God. Okay. So we've been trying to inspire creativity for 15 years. We've been doing it through this Access Art, which is a website used by many educators, loads and loads of teachers. We have about 70,000 people looking at Access Art a year. So it's a very good platform for sharing practice. ACE funded 40 artist educators. I want to really just recruit you all to try and contact us and share your practice. We've got here 20 published. We've got until December to recruit another probably 8. We actually have funding to pay for content this time. And what all of this patchwork of in fact, Anna Lynch was in the audience this morning. These are contributors, people who are sharing their practice. If I just maybe try and... 1 minute, Gina.
Okay, just in the form of a post. So basically, if you get in contact with us with a little bit about yourself, the project that you're working on, and images of what you're doing, we'd love to write an article with you about your practice. And I have done this extremely badly. I was very well practiced at it. 3 minutes is not my thing, but please just find that cute card and look at Access Art, look at 40 Artist Educators, and see how we want to share your practice with teachers and educators across the world. Thank you very much.
So here goes. What two things would you never put together? Graffiti artists inside a church, and not just any church, York Minster. The initial idea came from my background in the arts and the fact that we have had marks made by masons and graffiti engraved on this ancient building for centuries. It's part of the fabric, it's part of its heritage. York Minster Nights Urban Art Live was an event which ran over 4 nights for the duration of Illuminating York Festival 2013, which had the theme of illuminating the past, enlightening the future. So in order to achieve this, we invited street artists to paint live in the nave of York Minster. Taking on the juxtaposition of Gothic architecture versus modern street styles, we presented the contrast of contemporary artists responding to ancient craftsmanship that would have been radical in its own time. Our aims were to appeal to a wide range of people, in particular a younger demographic, an audience we struggled to get visiting York Minster. So with this in mind, we commissioned 4 street artists to paint new pieces of art, which developed over the festival, and one of these artists was Inke, who has an international reputation and Banksy's right-hand man. So the artists included 2 of Europe's top 10, Inke, as I've just mentioned, and Leeds-based female graffiti artist C-Blocks, who if you're around in Leeds this week, then you may see some of her work around. They each created a large hoarding artwork and lightbox each, and there was high level of interaction between the artists and the public. The artists found the opportunity to explore the Minster's heritage through tours of the building particularly helpful and inspiring. This made them feel comfortable answering challenging theological questions about their work and the relationship to the Minster. The artists said they found the experience incredible and felt that people's perceptions of both the Minster and street art had been challenged. They also felt the experience had changed their perception of cathedrals and influenced ideas for their future artworks. So what happened next? As a legacy to the 2013 event, this year we have run a huge youth outreach programme, working with artist C-Blocks and York Council's youth services, using the Minster's heritage and the theme of the First World War as inspiration for a street art project. Taking on the theme of heroes and what constitutes a hero, both 100 years ago and today, we worked with approximately 100 young people to create a modern-day memorial book and large-scale artworks. All of this work resulted in an exhibition inside the Minster and a family arts festival, which we called Saints and Heroes, hosted this year during October half term, so I'm still recovering. We had live art again from artists C-Blocks and Inke, and they took on the same theme with their commission of Saints and Heroes. The event was a huge success. Very glad about that. To our knowledge, we are the first cathedral to ever host graffiti artists, although St Paul's are now jumping on the bandwagon. Feedback has showed that it changed people's perceptions of York Minster both as a place of worship and a site of immense heritage. And finally, for us, it showed the value of pushing the boundaries of contemporary art in heritage spaces by trying something new. Well done.